most people that are in meditation harmonize with the earth. It's like kind of like the Buddhist. You don't hurt things. You don't hurt the earth. You don't hurt the animals, okay? And you look to flow in a harmony with that which is peace and love and all of the nice things that we're supposed to be enjoying on this battlefield that is called Earth. When you get into meditation, and you start into a deep meditation, the pineal gland electrons start vibrating. You absorb that photon that has made the offer. You now have an alien photon embedding itself in the electrical circuitry of your brain. And now, where before there was one of you, now there are two of you. And so now you are going to be more determined about the environment, more determined about animals, more determined about peace and friendship and culture and all of the things that are supposed to be nice and good because you have the alien inside of you. Now, if you're a religious person, oh, well, that's, you have the Holy Spirit. I don't care what the heck you want to call it. But what you have is a photon that has entered into you, not because of your praying, not because of your singing, not because of your reading anything or going into any building called the church, none of that stuff. You have it into you because in your meditation, you stimulated and vibrated the electrons in your pineal gland, and you absorb the photon. This, incidentally, was what I was talking about on the YouTube thing that I just did. This is how we communicate with those members of our family and friends who have passed on. Okay? It takes a total change in your understanding and your attitude about what you are, what they are. I mean, you think of your mother or your father, or you hear their voice, you see their face, the way they dressed, and so forth. That's not it. Can you get to the point of forgetting that? Okay? That's gone. That's the physical part. But their photon without a body, just as your photon with a body. When your body breaks down, the right angular gyrus of the brain opens its little electric door, and you get out. And they cart your body off to the junkyard that we call a cemetery. It's the same thing as they cart your car off to the junkyard, which we call a junkyard. They don't take you with it. So there you are, outside of the body. I mean, think of something. Yeah, the width of the side of your skull line is less probably than a quarter of an inch. Maybe it's a quarter of an inch or less. That's all that separates you from the universe. Okay? And so if you can bring yourself to say, I am going to communicate with those who have passed on photon to photon, not person to person, not in English or whatever language is your language, not in the earth ways, but in the universe ways. Photon to photon. Then you can make contact. They will make contact with you. And though you may not, you will not hear words spoken as you are familiar with words on the earth, you'll know. You will know that this communication is going on, and eventually you will start to learn the quantum language, the photon language, and your communication in that realm will start to be clear, even while you're in a human body. I mean, once you're willing to say, okay, I can't communicate with them as a body to a body because they don't have a body, as a person to a person because they're not a person, as Uncle Charlie or as Grandma because they're not Uncle Charlie or Grandma, but they are. They know everything from the past. They know everything in the future. Like you do too once you're outside of the body. You see, as a photon, when you're inside of the body, your brain then, which you attach to, you embed into this body and brain just like the sperm embedded into the egg, okay? You embed into it, and then as attached to it, you're subject to all the constraints of the physical form. You don't know everything in the past. You don't know everything in the future. You know, one of the most graphic, and I talked about this before, but one of the most graphic instances, I don't know, explanations of this was done, I believe, by Paul Davies. I believe it was Paul Davies, another physicist. He said, tonight you go outside and you look up at the sky and you see a star. The photon in that star knew 1,000 years ago the exact moment that you were going to go out in the yard and look at it, and it left the star to travel for 1,000 years, so it would be right at the spot of the retina of your eye when you looked. Now, you can't even conceive of such a thing like that. But you know why that is? Because you can't conceive of the quantum world. You can't conceive of the existence of a universe that is totally and completely different than anything on this planet. It's not subjected to the constraints of the physical. That's why, I mean, you have twins all over the place. Not just one twin. I mean, you have copies of you all over the place. And when one of you is doing something here, the other one is doing something the opposite over there. But you don't say, oh, well, I don't know if I believe that. Who cares? If you sit down and you start to think or read about some of the things talked about by Max Tegmark, David Deutsch, or Paul Davies, or John, and you realize this is true. And so there you are, right now, looking at me, not knowing who I really am, and I'm telling you this stuff, and you're probably thinking, did you see that? Not. Because you don't know. You don't know. I mean, hundreds of years ago, you could have sat down at some pub or something that they had or have, whatever, with the candles glowing and started talking about cell phones and computers and airplanes and submarines and all of this stuff. And people say, this guy's nuts. But here you are, and you take this stuff for granted. It doesn't stimulate you at all.